Today's podcast is sponsored by Farmhouse Teas. You have a vision, a big dream, and make a plan. You take the steps towards that vision and are on your way. But what happens when the plan stalls? What do you do when the vision dims? What if you get stuck in everything being good enough? In today's episode, we'll be talking about getting stuck in good enough, how we ourselves have gotten stuck, and the steps we are implementing to move forward.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Ample Flame podcast. I am Ben. This is my wife, Meg.
That's me. We're talking about good enough is no longer good enough for us. We're kind of tired of the status quo around here. So
we found ourselves kind of in the good enough rut pretty much for the past almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
The good enough rut, I guess we got to explain what it is. Basically is doing stuff just enough to get it done, and then once it's good enough, you just call it good.
Right. And we just leave it. Like, we leave it where it is. We don't improve on it. We don't change it. And like you said, it's been about 5 years. So do you want to talk about where we came from a little bit, our life pre-homestead, I guess, and what life kind of, yeah. I mean, because that kind of prefaces where we are at now and how we got to this problem a little bit. So why don't you jump in?
All right. So we're going to go way back. Okay. So we can give a little bit of history of us. I think we're going to go into depth on a later episode. We'll kind of explain who, what, when, where, why, how, all of those things. But for a brief overview, basically where we started was when we got married, we were ready to take on the world. We were ready to just go after Moby Dick in a rowboat and take the tartar sauce with us.
Sure. I guess so.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
When we first got married, nothing was too big. And so everything we did, we made sure we did it awesome.
Yeah.
And
we loved doing it awesome.
We loved doing it awesome. We loved doing the best that we could possibly do. And that's just who we are. Like, we're just those kind of people. Like, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right.
Right.
So we had our, small house in California. We bought the worst house in the best neighborhood that we could afford. And I'm talking, this house was trashed.
It was.
And we polished this house until it was awesome. Yeah. We were pretty proud of that house. We put a lot of work in that house, on that house, around that house.
Yes.
We had a very, very productive 8,000 square feet.
Yes.
That's how big the entire lot was.
Right.
House included. When we finally got to the point where it was time to find some more land so we could grow more food and get animals and stuff like that, we left. We hit the road, lived in an RV for 10 months. We got to see 45 states. Kind of a once-in-a-lifetime trip, honestly.
Yeah.
Even though every now and then we talk about doing it again.
When we're feeling particularly crazy, yeah.
But the time was right. The kids were the right size. We have 6 kids, by the way.
We didn't at the time.
No,
we had 4.
We had 4 boys.
Yeah.
I was done. 4 was enough. And God kind of changed my mind when we got out here.
Yeah.
But we have 6 now, so logistically speaking, it would be a little bit harder to travel the country in an RV with 6 kids.
Right.
Not impossible, but they're a lot bigger than they were.
And the RV's not going to hold them all.
So we left, we toured the country, we got out here, and it's almost like the productiveness stopped. It ground to a halt.
Yes.
And we have asked ourselves over and over, what happened? What happened? Why? What changed? How come we were so gung-ho? And now out here, it feels like everything is just
because like we feel like we got what we were searching for at the time, more land and room to grow and stuff like that. But like when we say we were really productive in California, like we would weed the weeds out of the lawn for fun. And maybe that's a little anal, but like your lawn was pristine.
I got comments on that lawn.
You did from all the neighbors.
We were selling the house, and neighbors I had never even talked to came. It was our yard sale. We had a yard sale, and they're like, "You guys are leaving? Oh man, you've got the nicest grass on the entire street."
Right.
And it was just like,
I wish we could have said, "Hey, come see the backyard."
Yeah.
We should have said that.
Yeah.
And so in the backyard, we had our garden, and you had beautiful garden beds.
Edible landscape.
We had, like, everything that we put back there was stuff we could eat. And the flower beds were always weeded. And I mean, there was toys all over the place. Like, it wasn't perfect, but I mean, like, we did our best to make it look as nice as we could because we were living in this space and we wanted a beautiful space. And so we moved out here. We now have 6 acres.
7 acres now.
Well, yeah, we have 7 acres now because we did buy the neighbor's plot. So we have 7 acres now, and now we feel like we are almost like just trying to keep our head above water with trying to keep everything nice. And yes, we do have more space. Like, there's more to manage now. And we are in baby mode again because we had our first daughter, number 5, when we had first moved here, and then our 6th, our second daughter. She's a year old now.
Little number 6.
Yeah.
Almost a year old.
Almost a year old
Probably
now.
by the time you guys hear this episode, it'll be a year.
Yes. So we are in baby mode again, but honestly, we had little babies, little people at that time when we were doing all the things. We were also 10 years younger, so that could be part of it too. Maybe the energy is just like drained.
No, I don't think that's it.
No, because we have talked about this ad nauseum for like a
Yes.
year now. Why are we in this rut? How did we get stuck here, and how do we get ourselves out? So, do you want to talk about kind of how we got into this rut a little bit when we first moved here and what we were doing first and trying to get started with?
So there's a lot that happened when we got here. We also bought the worst house in the best neighborhood. Again,
it's an MO of ours.
You know what? It's a great way to get into property.
It is.
If you are looking to live out in the country and you have sticker shock looking at all of these, ready-made, ready-to-move-in homes, go buy the junk fixer-upper. You can pick it up for pennies on the dollar, but you have to put some sweat equity into it.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to do the hard work and, fix something, build something, because whatever, everybody's got their reasons. Me personally, I like the challenge.
Yeah.
And I really like we just got this for pennies on the dollar and polished it up, and it's awesome.
Yeah, or at least it's supposed to be awesome.
It's supposed to be awesome.
That's what we're going for.
So basically, when we got here, we had this like huge task of we've got an old farmhouse, and there was a single wide mobile home, both in horrific condition.
Right.
And walking through the farmhouse, it was like there's not enough left. We could rebuild this quickly. Looking at the mobile home, it was like, yeah, no problem. These things are simple to build. We can just gut it, go from the studs on, and completely redo everything, which that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
So the mobile home really wasn't astronomical in the amount of work that had to be done. We gutted it to the studs, redid.
That would sound astronomical to a lot of people.
It's really not in the grand scheme of things. Like, there's nothing to them. So resheeted, re-insulated, drywalled, siding. Yeah. Probably took us about a year to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, we got pregnant with Buggy.
Right. Number 5.
Buggy's number 5. It was a big change of heart. I was done for a long time, and when we got here, the only way I can describe it is God changed my heart. Mm-hmm. And I started having this feeling of, hey man, like, clock's ticking.
Right.
Like, you really want to be done? I guess a little backstory is before we left California, I worked an 80-hour job, 80-hour-a-week job. I was never home. So it kind of makes it hard to enjoy a family.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it hard to even be a part of a family because you're always at work. Coming out here, we kind of made a commitment to each other that it didn't matter what we were doing, we weren't going to go back to that.
Right.
Not to say, if times were dire and I absolutely had to find another machine shop to work in, I would do it if I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let my family starve. But at the same time, let's see what we can do to try to be a family again.
Yeah. So that was a huge push for moving out here, and a big vision that we had was just resetting our family. And then when we found this place, remodeling and, resetting this, like making it a homestead.
Yeah.
That was our goal. And it's been 5 years now. We've had another baby. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, 6 kids. What did we start with when we first got here that got us started on our good enough sinkhole, if you will?
So after we got into our house, we finished it the week before we had Buggy. And then began the slow and arduous process of turning.
Y'all don't do that
Okay,
right
y'all
here.
don't be
Get outta
doing that in here.
Go on. Sorry, our
Beat it.
cats are misbehaving.
Right in the middle of us and start fighting and lose our train of thought. The long, arduous process of building infrastructure to keep animals, because we moved out here so we can grow our own food, raise our own animals, that
Right.
kind of stuff. Well, when you are having a baby and
remodeling
a house, there's not a lot of money left over from what little we were making on our YouTube channel.
Right.
Guess there'll be a link below.
Yeah. That's the Holler Homestead if you want to go find it on YouTube.
Basically, I got in this rut of, well, first thing we needed was a chicken coop.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this old, ugly shed right here with a lean-to on it. Bam.
Yeah.
Chicken coop.
So, and what we started doing also was like, okay, well, we have this lumber that we pulled out of the mobile home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we could use that instead of having to go to Lowe's and buy new lumber. Now, I mean, we did for the chicken coop, we did buy some new lumber and the hardware.
But not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. So we started getting in like uber thrifty, which is not a bad thing. We're not saying that's a bad thing. But we did get in this rut of like, well, we're not going to spend any money whatsoever because we didn't have any.
Yeah.
And that was fine. And so, but even when you're reusing and repurposing and you're being super thrifty, I feel like there is an art to it where you can make things like incredibly beautiful. And I would say that was not where we were at. It was more like, we're just going to slap it together and that's good enough. So we have some pretty janky structures.
Some is an understatement.
And they are ugly.
Basically, everything on this property that we've built for animal shelters is just ugly.
Yes.
And it's because, well, I've got, 4 sheets of roofing over here and there was a pile of pressure-treated 2x6s that was behind our barn that we are currently sitting in. And I use those pressure-treated 2x6s for everything. Right. Every project we had, I even used them for a project, took it apart, and reused them on other projects.
Yes.
Like, that's how much I used this free lumber.
Yes.
I probably used it for 3-4 years before it started falling apart.
Yeah.
Some of our pig shelters that are out in the woods are made out of that lumber.
Right.
So what happened was I started making stuff just good enough.
Yeah.
Function over form.
Right.
And
sometimes barely even function.
Yeah, sometimes.
If we're being really honest.
Well, okay. So we did some chicken tractors when we first got here. We'd never raised meat birds.
Right.
And so we tried a certain style of chicken tractor. It did not work for us. We did them for 3 years.
Yeah.
And they were the ugliest, splinteriest.
Yeah. Well, we used the lumber that we pulled out of the mobile home. And they did work.
They did work
for what we need them to for a time being.
Raise meat birds.
Yeah. So, and that was part of the thing was we literally got animals as soon as we moved here because that's what we wanted to do. So we immediately got layers. Well, we needed that chicken coop. And we immediately got pigs. So you were building kind of a funky fence around the barn, to keep them in there for a time period. Well, we immediately got meat birds. So it was a quick back to back to back. Well, we just need structures, and we didn't have a ton of cash to do it. So it's been this good enough attitude for a while.
For about 5 years, honestly.
So why did we get stuck in this rut of good enough? Because we've had this conversation in the past year of like, well, we can afford to go spend some money on lumber and build some new structures. Why are we still
being stingy?
I mean, yeah, I guess we could use the word stingy. Part of it is once you get in a mindset, it's really hard to change out of a mindset. So, but the problem with that is the mindset kind of just like spiraled down almost out of control because we started trash would build up in places that we hadn't previously had trash. And, we're allowing the kids and ourselves to leave things in the yard. We're not mowing and taking care of things like we used to. So our mindset kind of just went down with everything else.
There's a lot of stuff that let go. We got our dairy cow.
We had her for about 1.5 years.
And during that time, I quit mowing the yard.
Right.
This isn't like a real pretty yard like we had in California.
Yeah, definitely not. No.
It's very farm-like.
Yeah.
A lot of rolling hills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're kind of the side of a mountain a little bit.
Ish.
Pretty steep. Well, because I quit mowing because we were rotating the cow around and she was mowing the grass, that kind of, like, I lost that, I don't know, you pull up to your house and it's like, oh man, that grass looks like it's grown an inch. It's time to mow.
Right.
You see the grass different when you have a cow because it's like, I need to put the cow right there. She'll eat all that stuff.
Right.
Well, what I didn't realize happened was I quit seeing, hey, I need to mow that. And it was like, that's good enough. That'll be good food for the cow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we got rid of the cow, I didn't change my mindset. And so I kind of kept that good enough mindset with the grass. And that was a good example of where my mind was headed,
Mm-hmm.
was I'm letting the weeds creep up.
Yeah.
If out here, it rains all the time. And if you don't mow on a regular basis, trees grow up everywhere.
Right.
And so first it's weeds, then it's trees, and now you've lost your yard because now it's small trees in a year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my mind has been. It's like my mind has grown up with weeds and I'm not seeing the things that I was taking care of when we first got here.
Right.
This good enough attitude has kind of just, we finally have a name for it. That's basically where we got to, is we've been wondering what is up with us. How come back in California we kept everything so neat and orderly, and we come out here and it's just been like this slow decline of, well, we finally figured out we've adopted a good enough mindset.
Right. Right. And we don't want to be that way anymore. We feel like we're called to do better and be better. And we are not particularly happy with how our homestead looks now. Regardless of what anybody else thinks or might have an opinion of, is we are not happy with where we live, to the point where you've even talked about, well, maybe we should just move. And you get really unhappy with what you have. And we kind of looked at that, and we did kind of talk a little bit briefly about moving. It was like, oh, well, maybe we just need more space. And, maybe we need something that has better outbuildings, things that has better structures. And when we really sat down and talked about it, it was like, okay, this is actually not a legitimate argument of needing more space or needing outbuildings. We're not taking care of the space we have.
Yeah.
And so we have to be really honest about our attitude and our thoughts about this. And if we can't take care of the 7 acres we have now,
why should we go looking for
we go looking for more? What right do we have to be looking for more? So that's kind of where we got to, and what has been on our mind as far as this good enough attitude, and I guess really feeling convicted about it's not like we haven't taken care of it at all. It's just that we haven't been taking care of it in the way that we know we are capable of doing in our space. And it's kind of like that when you know better, do better thing. So, and something that we've also kind of realized is this good enough attitude, when you're starting to do it in your living quarters, in your living space, it also starts to spill over a bit into your relationships as well.
Absolutely. And
our marriage. And our marriage certainly was not getting recently to the place that it has been before. And we'll talk about that in a different episode. But just kind of good enough time with each other,
we spent an hour this afternoon. Good enough.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about anything particularly meaningful, but it's good enough. Meals, what I was cooking, oh, it's good enough. And so it really just spilled over, and we've realized, I guess this has been a big epiphany thing for us this past year, I would say, since having our daughter, of, okay, hold up. We are watching this spiral down, and we've been in a spiral down situation before.
Yes, big time.
And it's gone very, very down. And so I think because we've been there, we've been able to look at this and go, hold up, pump the brakes. We don't want to go down anymore.
Yep.
Let's figure out what's going on, what's going on mentally, what's going on in our relationship, what's going on, outside of our walls that we can have control over, and how we can fix this. And so we've realized that, the good enough is where we've been, and we want to change that mentality to move forward.
Yep.
So what are we doing in order to move forward and not be just good enough anymore? I am a big tea drinker, and I've been buying from Farmhouse Teas for years now, and for good reason. Cian and her family handcraft the most amazing loose-leaf teas that are as beautiful as they are delicious. Whether you're winding down after chores or just want something special in your cup, there's a blend for every season. Head over to farmhouseteas.com and use the code HOLLER10 for 10% off. If tea is not your thing, no worries. They also have organic bulk herbs, elderberry syrup mixes, medicinal plant seeds, and more.
So first off, I've been a metal worker my entire working career, and I've done fabrication. I've worked in a machine shop. I have built some incredible things, and likewise, I have built some incredible things at home.
Yes,
like I've built some really cool things at home. And coming out here, and it's just kind of ballooned. I've taken all of those skills and I've got to bring them home, and so I look at some of these things I've built. Chicken tractors and pig shelters, and it's like, what the heck? This is not me,
right?
Like, but whatever, it's good enough.
Yeah.
It'll do the job. It's good enough. So what we're doing basically from here is enough is enough. We are tired of looking at good enough structures. We're tired of looking at good enough repairs and things like that. And from here on out, if it's going to cost a little bit extra, we will pay that.
Yeah.
I just built a structure for the pigs. It is a 20 by 16? 16 by 20?
Something like that.
Something like that.
It was large.
It's huge. Great big enclosure to keep, I needed to wean some piglets, and I didn't have a place to put them. And it's like, I am not just going to, because I had the pen torn apart because I was cleaning out the pen, getting the 1.5 foot of wood chips out of it that have been in there for a year. It was like, I'm not putting the fence back and putting pigs right back in the mud.
Right.
Like I am tired of good enough.
Well, and by pen, for those who have not seen our YouTube channel, we're talking like a roll of wire that got unrolled and some T-posts stuck in it.
Yeah.
Like that's our pen.
That was my
and we
pen.
had a pallet house for the pigs.
Yeah.
The pigs don't care, but we care about our pigs, and we would like to do things better.
I feel embarrassed that I let good enough go on for as long as I did.
Yes.
With the pigs in that pen, it was 4 pallets put together with a tarp over the top.
Yeah.
And that was a pig house, and it was only supposed to be temporary.
Right.
But it was good enough.
That's been a lot of our
and
arguments.
those pallets and that tarp lasted for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Tired of looking at that.
Right.
I felt ashamed anytime I walked by and saw that, especially if someone came over and they walk up, hey, nice tarp.
Yeah.
Like it just looked janky.
We had a lot of discussions about this is not good stewardship.
It is not good stewardship.
It's not good stewardship, and it's not good husbandry for our animals because we're not giving them the best that we know we can. And it's not good stewardship of the resources like the land and the space and the animals and financially. Like we're not stewarding these things well. And so that was a big discussion and part of where we were like, this has to change.
This has to change.
Yeah.
So the only way to make something change is to actually be the change.
Right.
So it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. It just happened. It was like, hey, like I'm going to build this thing. I'm tired of raising the pigs this way.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this one. And then when I get a minute, I'm going to do the next one. And I'm going to convert my pig pens into a deep bed, dry mulch system.
Which is working great, by the way.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic.
It's been like a week and a half.
So
now.
we try to collect all of our animal waste possible and make compost out of it.
Right.
And then that compost in turn goes to the garden, which then feeds us. We're maximizing our animals' usefulness.
Yes.
And so from the oink to the tail, we use the entire animal plus some. And doing it in this system, I'm able to even use the manure.
Right.
And the pee. Like I'm using everything. It's a deep mulch system. They poop in the mulch. I add, wood chips. I add more, yada, yada. I could go into detail later.
Yeah.
But I'm tired of the good enough attitude and building this structure. It just the light bulb came on. It was like, this is what I used to do. I used to build the things that I needed and I built them to where I wasn't ashamed to look at them.
Right. And if we couldn't build it right away, we would save up for it.
Yeah.
And like we were to the point of, it's good enough to where we weren't even like saving for the bigger purchases to make things look nice. So that's a mindset shift that we are having is, okay, we really need to get back into that and being more intentional with how we spend our money in order to like build these structures. Like the garden beds is another example. So when we moved in, you collected a whole bunch of logs and cut them down and made these garden beds, and they worked great, and they were beautiful.
But wood rots.
And it was also like, well, this is good enough for now.
Yes.
And as these pieces of wood have been rotting and we're losing our garden beds, you've even said, oh, well, I could just cut more lumber and we'll put this in. And you've even said, but this is only going to last for another 2 years.
It's only good enough for 2 years.
For 2 years. So what we said was, well, we need to make something more permanent. And so in these garden beds, we decided to spend the money on some concrete forms and spend the money on the concrete. And we're paying one of our boys to make these concrete forms for the beds, and they're like
pour concrete into plastic forms several hundred times.
Yes, several hundred times. And they make these like really cool like stacking Lego type things that fit together with some rebar.
Really cool garden beds.
They're really beautiful. And so we know that these are going to last. This is a long-term thing that we are doing to, again, steward the soil that we've created in these beds and not lose it that way.
There's nothing worse than having a massive thunderstorm or a hurricane come through, and you watch the rain come down harder than you've ever seen rain come down, and you watch
all your
rotten your rotten beds falling down, and the dirt that you've put all your amendments and compost in washing down the hill to who knows where. It makes it to the creek and leaves.
Right.
Like
it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. So garden beds are a must out here.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. So being willing to spend more money and save up, chunks, like actually make plans, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Like we're making sure we're actually making plans for structures and, infrastructure around our place. But also something that we realized is we need to make time for these things. So, for example, this pig structure. We had plans that weekend. We were going to go out. We were going to do things. And it wasn't anything pressing, but we were going to go have fun on the weekend. And we talked about this, this mama pig that needed her babies weaned off and all these piglets. And we were like, you know what? No, we really need to put this margin in our life and take time to steward our animals and steward the structure. And you were like, I'm going to go tonight and go get the lumber. And we are going to commit to doing this thing. And
in a weekend.
And we did. Like you and the boys got it done. We have teenage boys. They're fantastic and so helpful. It is really amazing to have 4 teenage boys. But that's been a thing too, is like, no, instead of just kind of flying by the seat of our pants as far as our schedule, we really need to be more intentional with how we're spending our time as far as taking care of this place goes. So that's something we've been talking about as well.
So I guess the question is going to come up. We have a small addiction to thrifting.
Yes.
We
do enjoy not spending very much money.
So, I don't want to get people twisted. Like, it's not like we are one way or the other. Like, we aren't saying, go spend all of your money.
Right, no.
Do everything fancy. Anybody who knows us knows we very much enjoy thrifting.
Yes.
Like
estate sales.
Like,
shops.
we just love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Being able to score some old furniture
right.
For $20-$30 is a cool feeling. We very much like doing things on the cheap. But is there a problem with being too thrifty?
So I think the answer to that would be, what is your like heart posture on that? So there's a difference between stewarding your money well and then not stewarding the rest of your life well. And I hope that makes sense. So for me, I love thrifting. One, because you can usually find decently quality stuff that you cannot find in a big box store. We're just going to be honest about that. Everything in a big box store.
You can find real wood furniture.
Junk in a big box store. You can get good quality furniture for less money. Well, it doesn't make sense to go spend $500 on, a nice end table. If you can get the same nice end table for $20. So that's a good steward of your money. But at the same time, if your entire posture is, oh, I only want to make sure it's cheap, and you're just going to buy, even if you just buy cheap junk at the thrift store, it's not going to last for years. Like it's like this story, I think we actually heard this on another podcast, the story of like, you decide to buy the really cheap boots 5 times over instead of buying the more expensive boots that could last you like 10 years.
Mhm.
So it's kind of that same attitude of like when we go thrifting, what we're trying to look for is still good quality stuff. We're not buying just junk that's good enough, you know?
Yep.
We're trying to find really good quality stuff, but just get a good deal on it because I think it is very wise to steward your money well.
Yep. Absolutely.
But the flip side of that is if you're not stewarding the rest of your life well, the other resources you have because you're being cheap, then that's the problem.
It's the slippery slope.
Right. And I would say we kind of did slip that slope a little bit in being so caught up on being cheap that we missed stewarding or misstewarded the rest of our resources that we have been given.
Yep.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. What's your thoughts on that?
Slippery slope is definitely a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we've been guilty of that. Thrifting can be a very fun activity. Like many a date have we gone thrifting.
Right. Yeah.
Usually most dates we wind up at like a Lowe's or a Home Depot.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of couples.
We don't usually buy anything. We just go
Go.
peruse.
Or I need a box of screws or something.
Yeah.
It's like finish up dinner. Hey, let's go to Lowe's. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But thrifting, it's just, I don't know, it's fun.
It's like
kind
treasure hunting.
It's like treasure hunting in a way. Like it kind of feeds that part of your brain. It's like exploring. It's like, oh man, look at this old. Like usually when I'm going to a thrift store with no reason whatsoever, that's when I find the coolest things.
Right.
I've found some pretty cool antique tools that I put in my toolbox. Like I restore them and I use. I guess where the slippery slope can be is wanting to only buy stuff at a thrift store when you very much need to actually go buy that piece of furniture or whatever.
Right.
So I guess I can talk a little bit about our most recent thrift store find. When we left California, we sold our kitchen table and all the chairs. And it was because we didn't have space in the shipping container. And it was like, we can buy another table. It was a cheap, I think we got it at Big Lots.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a very expensive table in the first place. The chairs we bought from a furniture store because we couldn't find chairs secondhand back then. Anybody who's ever bought, brand new furniture, it's expensive.
It is expensive, yeah.
Well, we have a large family. We were a family of 6 back in California. Now we're a family of 8, so kind of need a big table.
Yeah.
We live in a tiny space now. So we have been living for, we've been in that thing for almost 5 years. We have been living in this house, and our kitchen table has been a card table.
Yes.
Like
a folding table.
Been a 6-foot folding table.
Yeah.
And we have
with folding chairs.
Yeah, with
metal folding chairs.
Metal folding chairs. So I had milled some white oak, and I was letting it season. I've kept it covered, like it's enough to make a kitchen table out of. And it's sat for almost 5 years now. I did it right before we moved in. I milled this lumber with a chainsaw, and I left it plenty big so I can run it through a planer. Like it's going to make a great kitchen table. Well, there it sits. It's still sitting there. Haven't made a kitchen table yet. And finally it got to the point I told you, I was like, if you find a kitchen table that you like, just buy one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know when I'm going to get to this. Just buy one. There's a little bit of that good enough attitude, but I've kind of got some stuff going on. I'm adding on to our house.
Right.
I'm trying to keep all of the animals alive.
Yes.
It's garden season. Like I've got a lot going on. And so just finally admitting, hey, I'm probably not going to get to this. And we've got a 1-year-old.
Right.
That is now sitting at the table with us in her own chair, eating food with all of us. Like, we need a bigger table. Well, the next time we went to the Habitat Restore, we walked in, and it was weird. We're walking around the store. I don't even remember what we went there for.
Random stuff.
Just random stuff.
We were bored on the Saturday.
Yeah, we were bored, and it was like, let's
get out of the house.
It was a random Wednesday.
Oh, it was a Wednesday,
It was a random Wednesday, and it was like, hey, let's go to the Restore. Yeah. There was something we were looking for. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But we walked the whole store and then walked into the furniture section, and like I was coming around one side and you were coming around the other, and it was like we both saw this table.
Yes, at the same time, and we kind of did the eyebrow raise, like,
hey, check out this one. Walked up, and it's probably from the early 2000s.
Yeah. It's all one solid piece top.
It's solid.
So there's no leaf, which is great because we can't really extend in our space anyways. And that means there's no crumb catching.
Yes, we hate crumb catching.
Drives me insane. Like, I love extendable tables with leaves, but the crumb catching makes me nuts. So there's no crumb catching. It's flat. And it was loved.
It was loved.
But it's not trashed.
It's not trashed.
It's in very good condition.
It was very obviously it belonged to someone, a family.
Yeah.
A family that had kids, because all of the corners have, like, you could tell coloring had gone on.
Yes.
Because there's, like, scribble marks that, like, are, like, deep into the wood. Not, like, super deep, but if you get in the light, you can see scribble marks.
Yeah.
There's no ink or anything. It's just, like, they were pressing really hard on a piece of paper, and it kind of scrubbed the wood a little bit. So it's kind of cool. It's got character. And it was $250.
Yeah, for the entire set with
thing,
the chairs.
With the chairs.
Yeah, we did have to buy 2 extra chairs because, we got 6 kids.
I mean, 6 matching chairs, a table for $250. Like,
yeah.
That was one of those things. I was willing to go pay like $2,000 for a dining set.
Just because we were like, let's get out of our good enough rut.
Yes.
With this plastic folding table. And
here we are. Once we have that conversation of let's just do this. Let's go to a furniture store and pay too much for imported furniture. And then lo and behold, here's this nice table.
Yeah.
So paid for it, went home, got the trailer, came right back.
Yeah.
Picked it up, took it home, and it was amazing having a real kitchen table again. We actually kind of counted some years, and it's been like 8 years that we've had. Since we've had 7 years. It's been 7 years since we've had a legitimate table.
Because we did spend time in our travel trailer while we traveled the country and while you were remodeling this place. So we were on, a travel trailer table that became Brett's bed every night.
Yeah. And then from that to
the folding table. Yeah. So it has been quite a while.
It's been a while.
And I am very, very happy to have a legitimate dining room table.
It's just nice to set dinner on the table and you're sitting there eating, and if someone bumps the table, your plate doesn't slide across the table.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool. But that's the finally admitting
we're stuck in this rut.
We're stuck in this rut. We're tired of good enough. This flimsy folding table is not good enough.
It's not.
Let's go buy a real table, be it used, be it new. And it just so happened to work out. We were able to find it new. I would say, used.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I would say being able to spend less money on something like that, if it's a quality piece of furniture, that's good stewardship of your money.
Right.
Just going out to a furniture store and spending a ton of money because you can go home with furniture might not be the best use of your money. We found that out the hard way.
Yes.
We bought our nice, fancy Ashley furniture back in California, and it promptly fell apart.
It did.
Within a year.
So it actually was not a good steward of our money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And I think that's a lot of things now. That could be a whole different episode. But that might be a ranting episode. That might not be good. So we're pulling ourselves out of this good enough rut. And I think we both feel really good about this. It's been really good because, like I said earlier, we have spent a lot of time talking about this. And it's good to be to the point where we identified what was actually going on. Once we got to the point where we were like, let's just buy more land. Let's buy a different place. It was like, this is not actually what we want. We really need to figure out what's going on here.
If we can't even take care of what we have here, what makes us think we can take care of something else?
Right, exactly. It's
we need to polish this place up to where there's nothing left to polish.
Right.
Polish hubcaps around here, and then we can start thinking about doing something else.
Exactly.
But there's it's like our place in California. We were looking at the grass in the yard going, we can rip out more grass and put in more garden.
Right.
Because the grass is the only thing that we can't eat.
Yes, exactly.
Like literally everything in our backyard. Like we were starting to, section off the front yard for garden, and trying to figure out how we can fit a few more illegal chickens in here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when we finally hatched the plan, like, hey, let's go find a couple acres and actually do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Being out here, it's like we don't need more acres.
No, we don't.
Need to be better managers.
Yes.
We need to be better stewards of what we already have.
Right.
I guess we come to a close. What would you say to sum up this episode? What we've talked about?
if you are feeling discontent with where you are, then you really need to look at why and how to pull yourself out of that. And if you're in a space of, oh, everything's just good enough, then be honest with yourself and say, okay, is this actually really good management of my time, my resources? Is this truly providing for my family what I am able to give them legitimately? And I don't mean like, oh yeah, this is what I'm giving them, this is what I'm able, but I mean like you have to be really honest about what you're willing and able to give for your family, because it should be your best.
Yeah. Good summary.
Thanks. What about you?
Basically, if you find yourself discontent with the status quo of your life, like I have, maybe you need to reevaluate if you've adequately dealt with your things that you have to do.
Yeah.
You know, are you managing your time? Are you managing your duties? Are you making sure you take care of your loved ones properly? For me, it was kind of a no, I don't think I am.
Yeah.
I think I have kind of been skating through just getting things done good enough. And it's making me crazy. It's making me miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you're unhappy, maybe reevaluate.
Yeah.
See if you've fallen into the good enough rut.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we've come to the end of this week's podcast. If you would like to have a little bit extra content, we do have some extra content on Patreon. We'll go into more depth. We'll talk numbers, stuff like that. Stuff that we don't want to really
answer some personal questions.
Yeah, personal questions, share some finance questions, stuff like that. Stuff that we don't want to just like blast out into the public.
Right.
If you're interested, the link will be below. Also, huge thank you to our sponsors. If you're interested, go support. Check out our sponsors. There will be links down in the description. Thank you for listening to the Ample Flame podcast. We look forward to having you with us next time.
You could just say thanks for listening. It doesn't have to be crazy.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. Like a phone call.
Like a phone call.
Bye-bye. Love you. Bye.